What's up, YouTube? Southern Comic Geek coming to you with an informational video. That's right, something a little bit different. I know that I have been interviewing several people regarding Valiant Comics. Some people have been leaving comments regarding that they didn't realize that there was this character or that character, that there was any depth because they had only heard certain things about overprinted comics. And so I wanted to maybe do a series detailing some Cliff Notes versions, if you will, of these said characters. And so stay tuned for the video. All right, so let's see here. Let's go ahead and get this started. So, don't know much about Valiant's Rai. Rai is one of my favorite characters in the Valiant universe, and I feel like he doesn't get enough love, not only by the company that owns his IP rights, but also by the fan base at large. So let's talk a little bit about the various versions of Rai that are out there. So we got to go way back. Cue the going back in time music. Okay, so that's OG Magnus. That's right. From Gold Key Comics, Valiant back in the day decided to get the licenses for 3 of Gold Key's comics. One of them was Dr. Solar, Man of the Atom. One was Turok at that time, Turok, Son of Stone, and then also Magnus, the Robot Fighter. And so for the purposes of Rai, we're only going to be talking about Magnus, the Robot Fighter, because he was set in the future. The other two in the present day. So VH1. So when you see me refer to, or might see other people refer to VH1 comics, that is Valiant Heroes #1. So VH2 as the reboot, similar to the way DC done the New 52 and the Rebirth. But this is VH1 Magnus. So Magnus was one of 3 characters that Valiant had licensed out to start their Heroes universe. And so basically they took these 3 heroes that people at that time were still fairly familiar with, having, if they had read the old Gold Key comics back in the day. And so they did this as a starting point, and they used them to introduce the new characters. So in issue 5, they introduce the character Rai. So the Magnus the Robot Fighter number 5, which you see pictured here, if you flip it over on the back, is Rai #1, and Magnus is set into the future about 4001 AD. So this is the back of that comic. So a couple of things about VH1 Rai. Rai was the Rais because there was multiple ones of them. The one that we're going to talk about first is Toru, Tohru. So if I butchered his name, sorry. They don't give me pronunciation when I'm reading them in the comics. But the Rai were made by Mother, and Toru is the one that we start off learning anything about. And so Rai and Magnus initially fight, but as most heroes do, they figure out that they have more in common than they do different, and so they team up. Japan is a flying city, so Mother has taken Japan kind of off-world, away from all the troubles of the surrounding world, and Rai is her protector and the people of Japan's protector. He has various abilities. He can basically teleport essentially around the city. He can make swords out of energy, and obviously his fighting skills as well. Rai starts his own series in Rai issue #1, and then he is recruited to fight Mother God. So there is some drama surrounding his dedication to Mother and the city of Japan as its protector, and being a husband and a father. And so it's really relatable from that sense. And he ends up saving his baby son And that's about the time that he is recruited by the other heroes to fight Mother God, which leads into the Unity uh, crossover event. So Unity was the big crossover event back in the heyday of Valiant. And so if you hear pre-Unity referred to, this is what they're referring to. So Unity is that crossover event. So Toru actually dies fighting Mother God, but allows the other heroes enough time to get away. So this is a Walt Simonson cover picture here. It is also the first Valiant comic I ever owned because Valiant comics back in the day were very pricey. Thank you, Wizard Comics. And they were very pricey and not in abundance where I lived at, not the pre-Unity stuff. And so when I got this, obviously with the Simonson cover, I was familiar with his work on Thor and just the gravitas that, a character can actually die and stay dead was very interesting to me because even back then, Marvel comic characters in large part did not die and stay dead, as we all know. So he actually injures Mother God, but in large part just is a sacrificial lamb of sorts for the other heroes to get away. And so that's in issue 7. Issue 8 details how Japan falls from the sky. So basically, Mother God said, if you do not team up with me, Japan will fall. And so he had to choose between his sacred duty as being the champion of Japan and the people of Japan, including his own son and wife, versus the whole world and the universe. And so he chose the universe. And Japan fell. So in issue 8, it details them coming out of that. And then then we skip over to Rai Zero. So Rai Zero is probably the most popular cover in connection with Rai, especially when the Bloodshot movie came out. There was a lot of hype around this particular book. There is a matte version and a glossy version. There's actually even an error version that floats around that's kind of pricey. But this is indeed the most popular of the covers. And it's actually picked straight from a Punisher drawing that Mike Zeck did. The only thing different was the little red dot behind him and the one on his chest. So, Rise Zero, Valiant took the opportunity to lay out the future of the Valiant universe going forward after Unity, kind of given definitive timelines so that you knew how things were going to kind of pan out. And towards the end of the book, you find a new Rai, Takao, Takao, pictured here, and he actually gets the blood of heroes. So you find out where got the idea of Rai from. And if you didn't know it, it was from Bloodshot. So Bloodshot was set in present day, and so what they had was called the blood of heroes. And so Mother had access to the blood of heroes, but kept it hidden because of its ability to control robots, which was something that, especially in the VH1 days, Bloodshot used all the time. And so she hid it and created in Bloodshot's image. That's why they both got the red dot and both possess the white skin. A character that has similar abilities, not able to control robots because she's a robot, but able to defend her and has the powers to do so. So he is a Psyot, which is Valiant's version of mutants. And so he, like the former Bloodshot, was able to take the nanites. So he takes the nanites. He's led by the geomancer of that day to get the nanites. And so he is the next Rai, but he is actually not a Rai in the sense that the other ones were. He is actually the next Bloodshot. So the series changes its name to Rai and the Future Force in issue 9, teams up with that year's Eternal Warrior. Obviously, he's older than what he is in the other books. And then you have Magnus, as well as the ex-wife of the former Rai, who is in an Exo Commando suit, and some others. So he is powered not by Mother, but he is powered by the nanites, just like Bloodshot was. And so the former Rai basically lasted 7 issues. This Rai lasts a few more issues. He actually lasts from issues 9 to 22. But all the good things must come to an end, at least in the Valiant universe, which is good in my opinion. So, taking a fight against the Maleeves, which were the evil robots from the Magnus, the robot fighter mythos, he tries to take over them, seeing as that he can control minds of robots. And they end up taking control of him and become his weapon. So, Magnus snaps his neck to keep him from killing them. So he dies, but not before he has an affair with Magnus's girlfriend, Elijah, or Alicia, however how you want to say it, and produces a son named Obadiah, who's born the issue before he dies. So now we have a few years skipped to the next issue of Rai, and Obi or Obadiah. As you can tell, they kind of lifted this from the Rai issue number 1. He also has slightly pale skin and a slight image of that red sun on his chest. But so he inherently has some of his father's abilities and his mother's, for that matter, who is a slight telepath. But he doesn't have the full meal deal. Eventually, before the series ends, he ends up getting the Blood of Heroes, which was taken out of Takeo's dead body and hid away until the time that Obadiah or Obi gets old enough. Interestingly enough, his main heroes from the run of Rai of issue 24 through 33 are his brothers of sorts. So the Rai that came before him, or came before his father, his son believes that he should be the inheritor of the symbol of Rai, not some half-breed, essentially. And then also Obadiah's half-brother, Torque, which is Lesia's and Magnus's son, Torque being the harbinger that died during VH1, but Torque is actually the name of Magnus's father, according to Valiant lore. So things go back and forth between them, and then the series gets rebooted. So during the Acclaim days, they didn't reboot the Rai title like they did the rest of them. So we fast forward to VH2, or the reboot in 2012. Now, if you want to see some stunning art and some great storytelling, pick up with the VH2 Rai. As you can see with these pictures, that's Clayton Crane, and it's Clayton Crane and all his goodness. Fantastic display of his artistic skill. Matt Kent writing, and there's also some David Mack covers, and so it's just really gorgeous artwork and a great story. So there are some tweaks to his origin, though. He is still in a long succession of Rise, so he was not the only one to come before, or the plan to have after him if he fails him. But instead of mother, it's now father, and father creates them as enforcers of Japan. So he finds out that father is evil and rebels, making Japan fall to earth. And so in the crossover 4001 AD, that's when that happens, which led into the miniseries of Fallen World, and then to the Rai ongoing series written by Dan Abnett. So the two series, even though they fit well together, weave a different tale, from the sense of, in the Rai Volume 2, done by Kent and Clayton Crane, it feels like a sci-fi, like a Blade Runner of sorts. But going into Fallen World and then the Rai done by Dan Abnett, it's more like a sci-fi Western. So both interesting takes on the character. Rai is one of the few titles that Valiant is currently printing out, and is doing a good job with it, with Dan Abnett at the writing. So it recently wrapped up with a cliffhanger, which I won't spoil here because I encourage you to read it for yourself. It's still a relatively new title, and you can pick it up yourself and pick up the Clayton Crane work. If not in the single floppies, you can pick them up with the graphic novels. And so that is it. That's a little lowdown of Rai. Only about 15 minutes worth, but just wanted to give you a taste of what this character from the Valiant universe has in store. Be sure to smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, and if you haven't already, hit the bell notification so that when videos like this drop ever so randomly, you will be one of the first people to know and can make the conscious decision as to whether or not to watch it now or later. But as long as you watch it, we appreciate you. We are fastly approaching our 750 mark. I threw the flag, the gauntlet, as it were, out there that if we hit 700 before January 1, that I would additionally give away another book on a live giveaway. I released out there on Instagram what that book is. And so we are only 8 away from making that happen. And at the time of this recording, we have about 3 more days to make that happen. So I do appreciate all of those of you who have subscribed to the channel. Be sure to check out some of our former videos where we do unboxings, mystery boxes, live shows, live sales, etc., etc., etc. And hopefully everybody's staying safe. But until next time, keep reading and keep collecting. Adios.